folks, good evening. So we are separate computers. Let me get got a big head on that. All right, so Rick's supposed to be here. His computer, he said, is acting up, so I don't know what that means exactly. So he is expected to be here. So he's the producer, as you know, not me. I don't do productions well. Last week was close to a debacle because I couldn't figure out even how to do the audio. So nonetheless, we've got the star of the show. Everybody's really happy usually when LaLa comes on. So I gave her my seat, and I'm like over in my office at the other end of the I like that view better. At the other end of my office. So that's the YouTube end of my office, and this is the work end of my office. And then in the middle, believe it or not, there's yet another studio, and that's where I do kind of like my professional Zoom stuff. So, all right. Well, tonight we are going to have LaLa chatting about kind of her goats and what's going on with the goats, kind of what the plan is going presently, then going forward, and answer any questions that you all might have regarding goats. And we've got some goat folks in here tonight as well. So let me do our typical roll call. Rick's not here to kind of highlight folks. So Missouri Outlaw Randy. He's trying to start a fight with Paula Wells, saying he's first. And, Paula, she returned fire and said, no, I was the first one with the thumbs up. So, Paula's all over that. So, there's no one going to take that first place position away from Paula without a fight. I can tell you that. Paula's usually the first one in here, usually by about 5 to 10 before. So we got Missouri Outlaw Randy in here. We have Twin Brook Acres. Rick, go over and check out Twin Brook Acres. Rick's most recent video. He's what taught me on his channel, I've said it 100 times, is his farm or his barn rebuild. And Rick's very mechanical guy. Well, he somehow laid his hands on a ski lift chair and he's making a swing out of it. And I'm like, that is an ingenious plan for that. I would love to be able to find a ski lift swing. That'd be pretty awesome. And he's making a porch swing out of it, or a yarn swing out of it. Who else we got in here? So we got Paula Wells, already mentioned Paula. We have Bradley down under, Bella. White shoulder boar goats. That's the other half, the better half of Randy. And those who don't know, Randy started his own channel. I think it was last week. So go over and check out Missouri Outlaw. And he's looking for ideas on what you want to see. Randy goes all over the country as a commercial truck driver. And I think it would be really cool for Randy to kind of highlight, what it means to be a truck driver today. You hear about, the fuel costs, and you hear about, the supply chain delays, and everybody blames truck drivers for that. I don't buy that. So it'd be kind of cool to address that kind of stuff, Randy. And here's a little bit of trivia tidbit of knowledge that nobody in here knows except for Randy, because I told him when I found out he did his own channel, was before I ever got into high school, before I ever chose to go into the military, so I'm talking probably 8 years old to probably 17 years old, my vocational goal was to become a truck driver because I was enamored by the lifestyle of, number one, BJ and the Bear, and number two, Smokey and the Bandit. Smokey and the Bandit I saw literally 3 times at the movies when it was still on at the movies, which was really rare because my father used to be a commercial truck driver and he drove all around too. So he actually took me to go see Smokey and the Bandit 3 times, just him and I, which was a rare thing to do something just one-on-one with my dad. The whole truck driver thing never panned out. I tried to talk LaLa into, maybe when we retire, we can become a commercial truck driver and just drive around, and no, we're farming instead. So I'm happy with that. Who else have we got in here? So we got Michael and Bobby Harris, our buddies over in the great state of Texas. Welcome. Fellow Eggheads. Who else we got in here? Michael Keener. How are you, sir? Glad to have you. So Michael, Bobby Harris, and Michael Keener, those are like LaLa mates. You know, they're like her fan club. I can't say anything bad about LaLa, even joking. I never say anything bad about her, but even joking, and Michael Keener be all over me with cleats. No, he doesn't let me pick on LaLa whatsoever. Mike Keener, disappointment is an understatement. Disappointed in what?
You know what?
What?
The lightning.
Oh, okay. See, they've got a thing. I'm not even talking their language, and they're like talking their language. Michael Keener and I can't. We love hockey, and our team is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And when the Tampa Bay Lightning during the season, I think I've told you this before, LaLa's got this weird app on her phone. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We're eating dinner or we're shopping. All of a sudden, her phone will go, and that means that the Lightning had scored a goal somewhere in the world. And it's just kind of weird. And it's like she's watching the Lightning play, and all of a sudden, boom. She gets a text message. Well, it's her and Michael exchanging hockey strategy. So it's a funny thing. All right, moving on. So we got Lone Star Pioneering. Les, how are you? We are doing well. Glad to have you. Barb's Country Home. Welcome, Barb. Tina Ladybug. Tina, welcome. Glad to have you. No. I think I saw Kyle Randall in here too. So Kyle, welcome. Hope you're doing well, sir. We got Sweet King's Garden in here. So far, so good. We've had a good day. You know, I'm not working anymore. Not permanently, just like today. Hey, looks like a lovely couple. Man, we got them smoked, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, man.
The big head is here.
The big head is here.
He's like the Wizard of Oz with the big head. I got a big head too because I'm like way up on it. So that's all the introductions. Our fellow Eggheads, we've got several in here tonight. Eggheads, that is our new membership program for LaLa Farm. 99 cents a month is what it is, and try to get you some private content out and priority on replies and responses and all of that. So we got Missouri Outlaw Randy, Paula, Michael and Bobby Harris.
You said them already.
I'm talking about Eggheads.
Oh.
And I think
we should be nearing the point where some of our eggheads start to grow.
Yep. They're going to get eyes and stuff. So then you'll have eggs with eyes, which is kind of creepy if you ask me. But it was cute when him and Rick designed the emoji. So all right, you guys didn't come in here to listen to me. You guys come in here to listen to LaLa talk, because universally, it doesn't matter. Whenever we have a video, whenever she's on here, it's like her fan, she's got literally a goat fan club that sends her fan mail, literally. All right. So basically what I wanted to do tonight, and I asked LaLa, is talk about kind of what the long-term plan is for goats, because we've been in goats now for about 5 years. As you know, we started with kiko goats. These are full-size meat goats, and we have really developed what I consider to be a really top-notch herd, performance-tested herd. And we've been able to follow up with some of the folks that have purchased our animals, and some of them are 3 and 4 years out. And just really, really impressed with the genetics that we have been able to put out. And we're proud of the work that we have done. Now we've got some decisions to make about where do we go into the future. So,
Twinbrook Acres.
what?
Yep.
Yep. What?
Long-term
Twinbrook says, get more goats.
Get more goats.
Well, that's that. I'm trying to beat around the bush, but she's going to address that. So, LaLa, why don't you talk about kind of how we got to where we are today? What kind of led us to getting into goats? Because that wasn't my idea. That was all your idea. What kind of led you to that, and how we got into what we're doing now?
Mama, lower the camera a little bit. That way people can see you better. There we go.
I just want to say that I did not yell about the position of the camera.
So go ahead,
Right.
Mama.
I was waiting for Rick to respond. He makes fun of me. He said, "You yell about the position of the camera." I don't yell about anything. Just kidding.
How'd you get into goats?
Oh, so when we bought our land, we had intended to have some farm animals. And when we bought the land, I told Rick that I wanted some goats. And when I said that, I meant, a couple of goats around for the grandkids and maybe to milk and stuff like that. Well, Rick, being the crazy researcher that he is, that's what he has his doctorate in, his research. Being the crazy researcher that he is, he took that to a whole new level. He started researching different breeds of goats, processes with testing goats and meat goats versus dairy goats, all kinds of stuff. And he found kikos. And he really was drawn to that breed because of the mothering instinct, and they're supposed to be a lower maintenance type goat, which they are, and different characteristics about the breed, the size and everything. And he really liked that and got into looking at lineages and everything. And because of that, I was fine with it. I'm good with it. I love any type of goat, but so we got into the kikos with the intention of breeding stock, which is what we did. We were very careful about what lines we chose, and looking at in the future processing more for meat purposes and stuff like that. So that's how we got into kikos. And I love the breed. I really do. I love my goats. And then I got introduced to the Nigerian dwarf breed through a friend of mine. I knew about them and everything, but I had never actually physically been around them. And I absolutely fell in love with those little things. I just love the breed.
Before you go into the Nigerian dwarfs, talk about kind of the pros and the cons to kikos, because we've done kikos for this is our 5th year going into kikos, and kind of how we went from a relatively small herd, how we handpicked them, and went from a relatively small herd to a not a huge herd, but it's probably larger than average.
Well, I was going to get to that, but okay. So, the pros and cons of kikos. Kikos are a hardy goat. They tend to be more parasite. I wouldn't say they're parasite resistant. They are more parasite tolerant, basically. What I mean by that is any goat, and I'm sure all the goat people in here already know this, but a lot of people who don't deal with goats don't know this. Any goat has a worm load, period. They're never 100% completely parasite free. of worms. They're always there. Now, whether they manage them better or not can be dependent upon the breed. It can be dependent upon how you manage your rotation from one pasture to the other, and that type of thing. And kikos are more parasite tolerant than other breeds, meaning that they don't have the worm blooms typically like other breeds do. So you're worming them. I have ones that I've had for 5 years that I've never wormed. They just are much more tolerant to their worm load. So, and there's several different things that can cause a worm bloom, giving birth, any type of stress, any type of illness, or even, heavy lightning storm or heavy rainstorm, whatever. Those things cause worm blooms and stuff. And the kikos are pretty tolerant of it. The other thing is kikos are known for their hoof quality. Most of your other breeds, you got to trim their feet pretty regularly because the hoofs will grow quickly, especially if they're grain fed. And kikos, because of the type of breed that they are and where they came from, naturally had developed good hoofs. And so need less trimming, and they're more healthy feet wise than some other breeds. So now I will say that in Florida, okay, it's a little bit different when you're in Florida because we don't have any rocky soil in our area anyway. There are some areas that it's a little bit more rocky, but we don't have hard ground here. Our soil is very loamy, I guess is the word for it. And it's sand. So their hooves don't wear the same way they do in other places like Texas or Indiana or anywhere, up north wise where there's a lot more stones in the soil. So here we have had to trim their hooves a little bit more frequently than what you normally would with that breed. Another thing about the kikos is that they are really hardcore foragers, and because of their size, they can clear a pasture in no time flat. And so that's one thing that we've had to deal with here is how quickly they will eat a pasture down browse wise.
Yeah, we keep the kikos on about 7 acres, and
They'll clear it.
they will clear it quickly.
Yeah.
So the stocking density that we can put on our forage pastures is not very high. I mean, so about the maximum is about 14 to 15 breeding goes before they clear it so much that it can't grow back.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing that we really did not appreciate because the research, if you go out and you just start looking at what's the stocking density for most goat breeds, or you just ask what's the stocking density for goats, a huge part of that depends on what breed of goat you're talking about. A boar goat and a kiko goat will clear much faster than will a Nigerian dwarf, or even what's Melody?
She's a Nubian.
So
Papa's mic is echoing.
is that better?
I don't know. Paula's the one who said.
I mean, there's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, one, you're in the same area, but the only thing that you can do is just turn down your mics a lot, or turn down your volumes more. That's it.
I don't know. I've got it. There.
Paula asked if we've thought about bringing in some boulders for them to play on to help with the hooves. Yes, we have, but that is not a cost-effective option in the state of Florida. Here, in order for us to go buy any type of boulder or anything, because we don't have them here, so they have to be shipped in from out of state, and so that just adds more cost to it. We lived at our old house before we moved to the farm. We had bought a couple of decorative stones, just big boulders, as decoration to kind of put in different areas and put plants around them. And that was insane cost wise. And so, no, we have not, we've thought about it, but that's not a route we want to
Yeah,
take.
just for a lime rock that comes from Florida, that's mined. We were paying, and this is 12 years ago, we'd pay $75 to $80 for one rock that weighed maybe 200 pounds. And that's not a very big rock. So if you look at the pastures, that's why, when we're not using our stock tubs, those tubs get put out into the pasture for them to play on and to run on. So we tip the stock tubs up, keep them out there, and we
Being Twin Brooks.
I have plenty of granite boulders here in New Hampshire. Well, I'd love to have some. Yeah, so that's why we've got that stuff out there. I mean, that's as cost effective as we can get. The hooves are the smaller problem.
Right.
I mean, the hooves, we can trim hooves. That's not a big deal. In fact, that's what we did this last weekend. The bigger problem is the stocking density and looking at what level of breeding we want to get to. And I think we've kind of come to the conclusion, now that we've had kikos, we've got boars, we've got kikos, we're starting to ask ourselves, what do we get more enjoyment out of, and what does the resources that we can give to the goats, what level are we able to give to the goats resource wise, that is healthy for them? And that's kind of the point that we've reached. Would you say not?
Yes. And the other thing is I want to be able to feed as natural of a diet as I can, and as high a quality of hay that I can, to all my goats. I can tell you, to do that with the kikos it's insane, the amount of hay that they take in addition to forage, and they waste it. I've tried everything and they waste it. I mean, goats waste hay. It's what they do. It's just, how they eat. But I could tell you that I can put a sleeve of alfalfa in with my Nigerian dwarfs, and they will eat every blade and every leaf out of it. And I could put the same sleeve in with my kikos, and half of it will end up on the ground, and then they won't touch it.
Yeah, I'm sure we've kind of looked at it in the past, but in the big barn, we've got the 7-acre main pasture that kind of wraps around 3 sides, and then we've got 2 breeding pastures that are probably 3/4 of an acre each, would you say? And what we have right now is we rotate our Nigerian dwarfs from the left side of the barn on 1 3-acre lot to the next side the next month, which is ideal, which is optimal. And then we've got all of the kikos on that 7-acre lot. So the kikos will really kind of push to the limit of that 7-acre pasture, of almost clearing it to the point where, if we had any more on there, the growth would not be able to outpace what they eat. As opposed to the Nigerian dwarfs, which, how many do you have on there now? 12?
Including Bobby Harris's? 12.
We got 12 Nigerian dwarfs on 3/4 of an acre, and they cannot clear that in a month.
Yeah.
Whereas the kikos, if we put the kikos on that 3/4 of an acre, it would be gone in days.
Yeah. The dwarfs will eat it. They browse just like all the other ones do. It's just they're just not as aggressive about it or greedy. The kikos, it's insane. But you have to understand too the size comparison of a dwarf to a kiko. My biggest kiko weighs 189 pounds. That's my biggest doe is 189 pounds. Whereas my biggest Nigerian dwarf is 70 pounds.
Right.
So, which is on the high end for a dwarf because they're usually around 70 to 75.
So Christy Betts asked the question, how many Nigerian goats should be on 7 to 8 acres?
Well, are you going to split those acres up or are you just going to leave them as 7 to 8 acres? Are you just making one big pasture or are you going to have smaller paddocks?
Yeah. So if you're doing rotational grazing, she's got 12 now. It's probably we're right at the outer limit of probably what we could put on there.
Yeah.
Ashley's in there from Mulberry Branch. What would be your answer to that, Ashley? How many Nubians could you put? How many Nigerian dwarfs do you guys put on an acre effectively? So we've got 12. We've got 12 on 3/4 of an acre now.
But let me be clear about something. The number, it sounds like a lot, but a majority of those are babies. So they're really small. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5. 5 of those are mature does.
Of which ones? The Nigerian dwarf?
Yes.
So that's kind of
all small.
Kind of another way.
Once
kind of
they
another
grow
thing,
and they become more mature, then it's going to stress that area a little bit more.
kind of
But by
another thing to
then,
point out
hopefully,
is during the day, just to kind of give you guys a.
So Rick, he says 189 pounds. Wow. Well, she is a specimen. So then Christy Betts says move around to cut down brush.
Yeah.
So that's what LaLa's talking about with what's called rotational grazing. So up to this point, we've only subdivided our pasture into 3 pastures right now. The original plan was to have about 9, but I don't think we're going to be able to even effectively do that. We will not get 3 weeks out of a half-acre lot or even a 3/4 lot with the kikos, and that's really what we're looking for. Is we want to be able to graze the goats on a pasture for at least 3 weeks, because that's the egg incubation period for the biggest parasite that goats face, which is the barber pole worm. So if we rotate them every 3 weeks, by the time they get back onto that pasture, that larvae will have hatched out and will be no longer a threat to the goat ingesting it. So that's kind of the goal. That's kind of where we've come to. So the one part is kind of the support and the being able to have the infrastructure to do it. But the other one is, what do you do with the kids? So talk about that issue that we've had differentially between the kikos and.
Well, I've always been able to sell them, the kikos, but it usually takes a little bit longer to sell them because of the area that we're in. There's not a huge market in Northeast Florida. Now, if I go over into the Panhandle area or even down the Gulf side a little bit, there's several places over there that there's more demand for them. So my thing has been, it takes me a little bit longer to move the kids than what I want to have them here for, because again, the more goats you have on the pasture, the more it draws off the pasture. And the bucks, I've always been able to, does always sell better than bucks, always. And bucks that I don't sell as breeding stock, they go to auction. And so I don't get as much out of them as I would if I was able to just sell them as breeding bucks. So it's significantly different.
So one of the things, so Ashley's answer to the question that Christy Betts had posed was, right now we're running 20 plus adults, too many donkeys, 23 babies on 3.5 acres. And they're not rotating yet, but will be rotating. So they're stocking even at a higher density than we are. And they're kind of finding the same thing, because our Nigerian dwarfs cannot clear that 3/4 of an acre
they can't.
in a month. I mean, they don't even come close to it. So that's kind of what we're looking at. The other part is kind of the emotional side. So when you're doing, one of the things that, and again, there might be some folks on here that are going to hear this and say, well, you guys are just, that's just not what farming's about. And LaLa and myself, I'm not going to lie, we had to bury a kid today that passed. He's been sick for a few days, and I didn't even know about it. As soon as I asked her, where's that buck thing? And she immediately almost started crying. So, not that we can't get rid of kids. We get rid of kids. We send them to the meat market every year, but that is not an easy thing. We send them for our own. We send them, every year we'll send 2 does, and that's gotten really hard because these are good does that we're sending to the processor now. But it's what we do it for. But it doesn't make it easy. And I think when you stop feeling bad about sending an animal to the processor or slaughter, when you start feeling bad about that, I think you're probably need a reality check, because it's a hard thing, huh?
Jesus Lord, I'm so sorry I'm late. To start over.
It's a hard thing. So LaLa, she has become. We all, I'm not gonna isolate her, myself included. I mean, we kind of get emotionally attached to these animals, even though we know that they are livestock. We know we're going to lose chickens. We know that. We know we're going to lose goats. So this year we had a pretty high mortality rate this year. Both kikos and the Nigerian dwarfs. What did we lose? A total of, we lost the mother. Her 3 kids were stillborn.
4. She had quads.
So we lost a total of 5 goats this year. That is hard.
Yeah.
Mostly during birthing season. Everybody, said, well, it's a wonderful thing. You're gonna have all these baby kids around, but that is, with baby kids, it's unavoidable that you're not going to face death in the process of that. And that's been really, really tough. So what LaLa has kind of brought me around to is having to evaluate the question of, what's going to make us happiest in the livestock that we raise. And, it's neat to see her interact with the Nigerian dwarfs, because the Nigerian dwarfs will run up to her. They're friendly. And they enjoy seeing her as much as she enjoys seeing them. Whereas the kikos, those are just very independent-minded creatures, and they're all they want to do is, if you're going to go out there and mess with them, just feed them, and they don't want to have anything else to do with you. With a few exceptions, she's got a few that she bottle fed, and that's a whole other issue.
The one that I have, I have 2. One of them, the mom got sick, so I had to bottle feed one of her kids. And then another one was, she was the runt of triplets, and the other 2 would not let her eat. And she was flat. She was not doing well, so I brought her in, bottle fed her. So
welcome Peterson Farms of Nashville. Welcome Crazy Lizzie's Goat Farm and more. So Crazy Lizzie's, that's another goat farm over in the Panhandle of Florida. Peterson Farms of Nashville. I'm assuming that you're up in Nashville, so welcome. And Hat Creek Homestead, how are you? Glad to see you in here. So we've really had to kind of take a step back and say, what's our long-term goal? And that's, and because LaLa does 90% of the day-to-day care with all of the goats, which includes boar goats, Nigerian dwarf goats, kiko goats, and that Nubian goat, one Nubian goat. She does most of the care. I help her. She's the technical expert. I'm just everybody else. I would say that Madeline's the secondary technical expert. Everybody else just helps them to manage the goats. And so I kind of left it to her. What do you want to do? Where do you get the most level or the most amount of enjoyment out of our goats? You want to address that?
Where I get the most enjoyment out of our
Where
goats?
do you? I mean, you've made the decision. I'll kind of break the ice for you. You've made the decision to kind of pivot away from kikos and more toward Nigerian dwarfs. Now, that doesn't mean we're getting rid of all of our kikos, because there are certain kikos that
Aren't leaving this far.
they're not leaving. Not that they're bad goats. We don't have any bad goats. The bad goats that we've had, we call.
Rose Leia's retired, and
so she is the herd. She is the herd queen. That's the 189-pound goat.
And she's retired, and I will not sell her off.
She would be if she went to she generates incredible kids, but we don't even know that we're going to breed her again.
Yeah.
You know, she's just a very independent minded, the biggest eater that we have, but you know, we've made the decision that she's going to kind of spend the rest of her life with us.
She just
however long that is. And then we've got our first breeding goat that we ever purchased. Anyone that's in the kind of kiko world in here, she is our first kiko that we bred. She is a double bred Indian outlaw or outlaw kid, and we got her the day that she was weaned from her mother, and really has produced in the 1 year that we've bred her, she's probably our top mother of all of our kids, and she's just a very friendly goat. Then we've got a little blue doeling that we bred last year. Actually, Michael and Bobby Harris, if you guys are still in here, we sold Michael and Bobby a doe, an adult breeding doe last year called Stormy. And so we've got one of her daughters that we have retained by them that we call Baby Blue. And Baby Blue is going to stay. And then the last one that we're thinking we're probably going to keep is probably Rose. But if we can find a farm that would appreciate Rose for what she is and not get frustrated with her, then Michael and Bobby Harris contacted me if I want to ever get rid of Rose. Rose is just a special beast. She's like, I don't know. She's kind of like the surfer dude. Nothing bothers her. She just doesn't get wound up over nothing. And she gives us incredible babies. That's kind of what we're thinking. So we'll probably downsize the herd from somewhere close to, what do we got now? 20? 15, 20?
Well, if you include the kids, 29.
Yeah. Down to probably 3 to 4. And then rotate them on their own pasture. And maybe because none of the 4 that we would be keeping are aggressive goats, except for maybe Leia. But I think she could even be quelled because they will learn their place quickly.
Leia's not aggressive at all. The one that's aggressive is Sassa.
Okay. Well,
Sassa thinks she should be herd queen.
So what we have done over the last 3 months, and we've kind of quietly done it because we really were evaluating what's the plan going forward. And I think she's made the decision that we are taking the same exact approach with Nigerian dwarfs that we took with our kikos. So we are very picky with what we buy, very picky from who we buy from. And, that approach worked with our kikos. We went from all the way from Northern Virginia, Southern Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina, to get our core breeding stock stock in our kikos, and our performance in the West Virginia buck test last year really bared out the quality of the animals that we are breeding. And so we're going to take that same approach. We're hand picking. LaLa did a video a few weeks back where her and a friend of hers, another goat addict, so Caleb, I'm not saying Caleb comes into our lives, but her and Caleb, that's if she's not on the phone with,
Watch them later.
if she's not texting Michael Keener during the evening hour, she's texting Caleb about a goat. So it's either Michael Keener and hockey, or most goat and hockey, or Caleb about goats. In fact, Caleb decided he's going to buy one of our Nigerian dwarf bucks today. So oh goodness. So we're doing the same thing. We're going literally to the highest quality farms that we trust to develop our stock. So she's been down to Central Florida twice in the last month. Right before we come on the live tonight, she found one up in Statesboro, Georgia. She now, I think, will be joining the herd in short order because I don't think she's going to take no for an answer.
Hobbit.
I don't think she's going to take no for an answer on that little buckling. And I think at some point in time, we will probably pay a visit, depends on how it comes about, up to Mulberry Branch Farm, because she wants one of Ashley's. She wants to kind of broaden our lines with what Ashley has up there. So I think that she will probably be in touch with Ashley to see if we can do that maybe within the next year or two. But that's kind of the direction that we'll go. Randy says, I'll sell you some boar goats, Rick, when Shannon's not home.
Hey, on that note, let me just tell you.
She will never give you your tire checker if you do that.
So listen, y'all know Madeline, my sweet girl. So we got to talking, and she has decided that she is showing pigs, not goats. But there's another story behind that. But she wants to start her own small boar goat herd with her own barn and her own pasture. So that's in the works too. So we may have to hit you up for a boar goat.
Well, she's got her own boar goats, and that, again, we're not getting rid of all the other breeds. We've got one special boar goat that we will have until Madeline has her own farm at some point in time. She's got her own core stock, and it's good stock. And she sold her own kids this year, and beautiful little kids. But she sold them, and now she's reinvesting that into more boar goats.
Paula says 15 minutes to the top of the hour.
So that's kind of so I just watched your video on putting clips on T-posts. Said it was for the goat. Don't get rid of the goat. We're not getting rid of all the goats. We're just changing goats. Michael,
I'm downsizing my Kiko herd.
Michael Keener wants to wake up Jalen in Ireland. I would suggest that you not do that, Michael. See, between Michael Keener and LaLa, they have some serious impulse control when it comes to goats. So. But if you're interested, give us a call. I mean, we know which ones we're not willing to get rid of, and we know the pros and cons of each one of them. And we're not in a rush to get rid of them. We're not liquidating our goats by any stretch. We care a lot about them, but we're just changing directions. So we want to be able to stock at a higher density because, frankly, of the Nigerian dwarfs, how many Nigerian dwarf kids did we have this year?
Oh God, I can't tell you that off.
25.
I can't tell you that off the top of my head.
Well, it was a bunch. I mean,
Yeah,
it was a
and
was-
they sold.
it was a couple dozen, and every single one of them were sold before kidding season was even concluded. They were spoken for before the deliveries even happened. And that's a much more enjoyable feeling for us as breeders to be able to start other people with goats. That's a very different feeling than taking the bucks that you have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into, loading them up onto a trailer and taking them to a sale barn and knowing that in 6 weeks they're probably going to be slaughtered. That's a hard thing, even though that's the reality of meat goats. We just want to change directions because LaLa enjoys those better. And frankly, there is nothing there's few things that I have experienced on the farm personally when it comes to
Oh, Randy,
what?
you put that out there on a public media. Ooh, now you got to stick to it.
So there's probably few things that I enjoy more on the farm when it comes to families visiting the farm and LaLa in watching LaLa show these kids and show the parents these little goat kids, and then they come back and they pick them and they come back and just to see the amount of love that goes into those animals, it's really fulfilling feeling. And then when the day that they come and pick them up, one of the pictures that got put up on our community tab, I think it was Sunday, wasn't it?
Saturday.
So back 3 months ago, from our local feed store here in McClenny, Kimberly's LaLa's got a good relationship with everybody there. Well, one of them wanted to get started in goats. One of the people in the feed store, and so they come over, and that's where. So they come over and they saw Madeline's kids from her boar goats, which were just absolutely beautiful babies.
Yeah, they were
little girls.
Baby.
And he brought both of Madeline's kids. And the day that he brought those kids over, and we watched them play with these goats, it's not like anything else. I mean,
so he came in. He contacted me and said, "Can I pick him up Saturday?" And I was like, "Sure." Well, when he come to pick him up, I didn't know that it was his daughter's birthday, and she's 4. She turned 4, and she was just all about those goats. So he wanted to surprise her for the birthday, and so he came and picked up the goats, and he took them over to their house and surprised her with them. Well, from that point on, she didn't want to have anything to do with her birthday party. She just wanted to be with the goats. So I saw him today. I went to get some hay, and I saw him, and he says, I said, "How are they doing?" He said, "Oh, they're fantastic. She just loves them. They're just fantastic." And he said the other day that they had driven home, and on the way home, they had been out somewhere. On the way home, she fell asleep in the truck. So when they got home, he left her in the truck with the window down, and he went over and started feeding the goats so he could get it done before he took her in the house. The goats started yelling because they wanted food, and it woke her up. And she said, oh no, my goats need me. Come get me out of the truck. My goats need me." And I just thought that was the cutest thing. They haven't even been there for a full week, and she's like, "My goats like it."
So Missouri Outlaw. So Randy, thank you so much for the super sticker. Much.
Thank you.
And then again, this is like friendly competition. Look at Paula. She said she just got to beat Randy. so she topped him off at $6. So Paula, thank you very much.
Stuck in the city.
So
presently, no, I do not. It is my goal though to at some point start doing some milking. I have a pretty severe allergy to raw milk, or not raw milk, but cow's milk, and and some other dairy products. I can't have ice cream, stuff like that. So But I can drink goat's milk. And so I would really like to eventually get to a point where we could milk a little bit.
Yeah, and I think
not in the near future. I just don't have the time.
Yeah, and that's the big issue is that,
Christy Betts, you need to get them. I know where you can get some goats.
No, we don't have any babies anymore this year, but right now it's really an issue of where do you divide your labor at? Because right now it takes more time for feeding and everything, and so you'd have to commit some time to being able to milk at least once a day.
I work full time, even though I work out of my home, but I work full time, and I have other things going on as well. So, working that in there, and I'm not making an excuse. I know there's a lot of people who work full time that milk their goats, and I get that, and I respect that, and I stand in awe of you. But right now, I just don't have the time to do that, and I don't want to start something
right
that I couldn't finish.
Simply Jan Homestead, welcome. Stuck in the city. My mother is the same way. She hates goat milk, so we are getting a couple of dairy sheep lambs. Well, I don't dislike goat milk. I'm not a huge milk drinker.
No,
now Little Rick's family is a huge. They drink a lot of milk. LaLa I think she would probably drink milk if it didn't have the effect of cow's milk does on her. But I
can't breathe.
Yeah, I don't drink a lot of milk. Literally, it sounds odd and weird, but the only thing I drink literally is unsweet tea and water. That's it.
And occasionally a coffee, but other than that.
So Ashley says milking is tough. Do what works best for you. Well, eventually we would like to get into milking, but more for performance purposes than for consumption. Now,
I want to do linear appraisals and milk testing.
Consumption will come with that, and we want to be able to do the same thing with the dairy breed, but that we have done with our meat breed. But frankly, it's a really confusing system. LaLa spent a lot of time, talked to a lot of people, and still doesn't really understand it. So
it's a little confusing.
So, but
I'm getting better.
I want to do a gigantic shout out here to Ashley. In that, just looking for Ashley's last post. Ashley did a show this last weekend, and
and
actually, you talk more about that because you know more about it.
Ashley did a show. She took 2 of her goats and they placed really, really well. And it was her first time showing. She'd never done it before. So kudos to you, girl. And they are beautiful goats.
Yep.
So good job. I'm impressed. That's something in the future that I want to try. But I don't look very good in white.
Well, Ashley, what I say that loosely. What LaLa is doing, I was more of the driver for the meat goat herd, but she is very much into the Nigerian dwarfs, and I do the research and kind of pester her with that stuff and really look at performance and looking at objective evidence that what you have is a good animal, because everybody's going to tell you what they want you to think about their animal when you're selling them, but I like to get the data, the documentation, so I can show you for our bucks and for at least 2 of our does, I'll show you the data that says the kids that they produce are top-notch performers, as evidenced by West Virginia performance testing.
Yeah.
And we want to kind of get to that point with the Nigerian dwarfs and really kind of become a breeder that, at least in the Southeast, in Florida at least, or South Georgia, that when people want a good quality goat, they consider coming to us.
Yeah. Christy Betts says she's never drank real goat's milk, but the stuff in the can is terrible. Yes, it is. Even the stuff you buy in the carton in the grocery store, that goat milk in the refrigerated section.
I've
It's
had
not. That
I've
is
had
not good.
real goat cheese, and
Right.
I've had store-bought goat cheese.
Right.
And I don't like store-bought goat cheese.
No, the home processed goat cheese is much better. And fresh goat's milk is much better than anything I've tasted out of the store, whether it be a refrigerator carton or in the can or whatever. And the other thing is too, is it depends on what the goats are eating, because it can impact the way the milk tastes. But I much prefer.
I'm gonna show everybody a look of utter surprise. See, that's a look of utter surprise right there. He's just bored because he doesn't have anything to. He's just sitting there just listening. He hadn't had anything to say tonight. That's how LaLa dominates the conversation. You know.
Just listening to,
Let's take a vote on that, folks. Who dominated what conversation?
All right.
There you go, right there. That's right.
So Paul has given us the 2-minute warning. So, Rick, any closing comments?
no, just thank you guys, everybody, for the support like usual. I kind of lost internet this past Friday and Saturday, and so that's why we didn't get a video out. But I do have a video. If you guys hadn't seen the zucchini that me and Chelsea pulled out of the garden, it was absolutely massive. And so Chelsea cut a quarter off of that zucchini and made 2 decent sized loaves of zucchini bread. And so
I haven't seen any zucchini bread.
I haven't seen any zucchini bread.
Yeah, it's all gone.
Okay, I see how you roll.
I got you.
But we did bring you guys one whole loaf last time.
I see poopy cookies in our future, Big Rick. Yeah.
The other loaves you used our flour to make the zucchini.
That is true. I think Chelsea had to go up there and borrow flour. But so Friday will be Chelsea's video on the zucchini bread, so you're not going to want to miss out on that.
Yeah, you're not going to miss out on the video, but we missed out on the bread.
Randy, thank you for a super sticker again. Much appreciated, sir. And we're going to go ahead and sign off. Jesus is Lord. Did you get your mug? You should have gotten it by now.
He said thank you for all the stuff.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
We got it.
I didn't read it. Okay. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and sign off. As always, we really, really.
Randy just did another $2. Right before we signed off. You beat Paul out.
Folks, I really, really appreciate all the support. We're going to go ahead and sign off. So always remember, treat others as you would like to be treated. Close it, LaLa.
Always remember to be kind to each other. LaLa Farm out.
Good night, folks.